You could say I was thinking of other things when I shampooed my hair blue, and 2 glasses of red wine didn't help my concentration. Let me explain. First, you should know this about me. I have but one mirror in my home, a smudged one at that. I'm a conscientious cleaner. You might even say compulsive. The sink is immaculately white. Its bronze faucets sparkle. But I rarely remember to wipe the mirror clean. I don't think we need to consult Freud or one of his many minions to know that there's an issue there. I begin this tale with a badly lit reflection. One of the bathroom's 2 bulbs has expired. I'm in the midst of an evening ritual of brushing my teeth, facing said mirror, when a halo surrounding my head snares my attention. Toothbrush in right hand, still moving up and down, side to side. Left hand reaches for the reading glasses lying on the little table next to the toilet. Once atop my obtrusive nose, they help me see that I am neither a saint nor saintly, but more like the Queen Mother. Well, an image of the Queen Mother smudged by a schoolgirl's eraser. No halo this, the blue anomaly is my damp hair. A pigment battle rages atop my head, a cat fight of mismatched contestants. I touch a still wet lock to test the permanency of the blue tint and end up leaving a sticky stain of toothpaste on it. You can correctly presume that multitasking is not my forte. I lean over the bathtub, pick up a tube of Bel Argent shampoo I bought yesterday. I read the fine print, squinting even with the reading glasses. Yes, I use 10 times the amount prescribed while washing my hair. I enjoy a good lather. Reading instructions happens not to be my forte either. Usually, vanity isn't one of my concerns. It doesn't disconcert me much. However, I'd overheard the 3 witches discussing the unrelenting whiteness of my hair. Jomana, my upstairs neighbor, had suggested that if I use a shampoo like Bel Argent, the white would be less flat. There you have it. As I understand it, and I might be wrong as usual, you and I tend to lose short wavelength cones as we age, so we're less able to distinguish the color blue. That's why many people of a certain age have a bluish tint to their hair. Without the tint, they see their hair as pale yellow or possibly salmon. One hairstylist described on the radio how he finally convinced this old woman that her hair was much too blue. But this client still refused to change the color. It was much more important that she see her hair as natural than the rest of the world do so. I'd probably get along better with that client. I too am an old woman, but I have yet to lose many short wavelength cones. I can distinguish the color blue a bit too clearly right now. Allow me to offer a mild defense for being distracted. At the end of the year, before I begin a new project, I read the translations I've completed. I do minor final corrections, set the pages in order, and place them in a box. This is part of the ritual, which includes imbibing 2 glasses of red wine. I'll also admit that the last reading allows me to pat myself on the back to congratulate myself on completing the project. This year, I translated the superb novel Austerlitz, my second translation of Sebald. I was reading it today, and for some reason, probably the protagonist's unrequited despair, I couldn't stop thinking of Hannah. I couldn't, as if the novel or my Arabic translation of it was an inductor into Hannah's world. Remembering Hannah, my one intimate, is never easy. I still see her before me at the kitchen table, her plate wiped clean of food, her right cheek resting on the palm of her hand, head tilted slightly, listening, offering the rarest of gifts, her unequivocal attention. My voice had no home until her. During my 72 years, she was the one person I cared for, the one I told too much. Boasts, hates, joys, cruel disappointments, all jumbled together. I no longer think of her as often as I used to, but she appears in my thoughts every now and then. The traces of Hannah on me are indelible. Percolating remembrances, red wine, and old woman's shampoo mix well and wind up with blue hair. I'll wash my hair once more in the morning with No More Tears baby shampoo this time. Hopefully, the blue will fade. I can just imagine what the neighbors will say now. Okay, I'm going to take just a slight break and change my glasses because I really can't see. Also, it's a fashion statement. And this one is more reading glasses. So when I bend down, you can see the red. Much better. My father named me Alia, the high one, the above. He loved the name, and I was constantly told, love me even more. I do not remember. He passed away when I was still a toddler, weeks before my second birthday. He must have been ill, for he died before impregnating my mother with another, as he was supposed to, expected to, particularly since I was female and first. My country in the late 1930s was still trying to pull itself out of the 14th century. I'm not sure if it ever succeeded in some ways. My father was barely 19 when he married and 21 when he died. My mother, a widow at 18. They were supposed to spend eons together. It was not to be. What to do with a young widow? The families convened. My mother's family, having thought they had one fewer mouth to feed, now had two more. It is said that my maternal grandfather hinted that they were given a defective model. The families decided that the young widow would be married after her husband's brother and try once more, except she wouldn't receive a second dowry, her wedding gift. 3 months after my father passed away, my mother knelt obsequiously before a sheikh and watched as her father and second husband signed the contracts. In time, I was presented with 5 half-siblings, none of whom I was particularly close to. 6 children, 1 room, 3 narrow, lumpy mattresses on the floor, horizontal martial arts battle during the night, yawning, bruised bodies in the morning. My uncle father was kind, if not particularly loving or affable. He paid little attention to his children, even less to me. I'm unable to recall much about him. I have no pictures of him, so in my memory, his face is always obscured. In every evocation of a childhood scene, my stepfather's face is the least detailed, the most out of focus. When I think of him, my memory's eyes have cataracts. His sole remarkable trait was his unremitting passing of gas, which he had no inclination to control. Well, at least some of you can laugh. Okay. Lunches and dinners, as the family sat on the floor surrounding him, were unbearable. The boys loved it, but I could barely eat after he broke wind. That's probably why I've been skinny all my life. To this day, there are certain human smells that make my stomach swirl. At his deathbed, on a night drunk with cicadas, as the family sat in his room, he called on each of his children to offer final wisdom. But he forgot to call on me, he forgot to call on his youngest daughter and me. The youngest was devastated, and all tried to comfort her. They surrounded her, cooed to her, smothered her with mollifying maxims, passed her their handkerchiefs. I wasn't distressed, and none comforted me. No one passed me a handkerchief, not even a tissue. He had no wisdom to offer me. No one in my family did. I am my family's appendix, its unnecessary appendage. I was married off at 16, plucked unripe out of school, the only home I had, and gifted to the first unsuitable suitor to appear at our door, a man small in stature and spirit. Marriage is a most disagreeable institution for an adolescent. We moved into this apartment, and it took fewer than 4 years for him to stand before me, as the law required, and declaim the most invigorating of phrases: "You are divorced." Nothing in our marriage became him like leaving it. The impotent insect stepped out the door, and these floors never had to feel his feet again. Young as I was, I shed not a tear. I did what my nature demanded. I cleaned and scrubbed and mopped and disinfected until no trace of him remained, no scent, not a single hair, not a touch. I removed the nails on the wall where he used to hang his dirty hat and his pungent pipes that he thought made him distinguished. With a needle and spool of thread, I repaired every hole in the doilies, singed by the cinders of his pipe. I soaked the mosquito net in bleach. I did not wait for the smell of him to dissipate on its own. I expunged it. Before leaving this world, the listless mosquito with malfunctioning proboscis remarried twice and remained childless. Woman, you are divorced. Of course, he could have married over me and brought a second wife into our crumbling nest. Having more than one wife wasn't common in Beirut then. Even then, he'd have been the only one in the neighborhood with 2 wives. But he could have done it. My mother wanted me to be grateful. He may have rejected me as superfluous waste. He may have treated me as merely the dispensable product of his rib, but still, I should be appreciative. He divorced you. You can remarry a gentle widower, or maybe a suitor of women more seemly who have been rejected a few times. Consider yourself fortunate. Fortunate. For my mother, being a pathetic suitee was a cut above being a neglected second wife. She couldn't conceive of a world in which my husband didn't hold all the cards. In her worlds, husbands were omnipotent, never impotent. Mine thought of me as the cause of his humiliation and probably continued to blame his other wives. He couldn't risk having his women talk to one another. I would have loved to chat with his second wife, or even his third. Did he continue to wear his ridiculously large hat that cruelly emphasized his small head? I could have asked, in all the years of marriage, did you ever see his penis? Did that shrivelly appendicle ever reach half-mast? When did he surrender? When did he end his fumbling humiliation in the dark? Was it a year, 6 months, a couple? In The Science of Right, Kant wrote, "Marriage is the union of 2 persons of different sexes for the purpose of lifelong mutual possession of each other's sexual organs." Kant obviously hadn't met my husband. Of course, like Descartes, Newton, Locke, Pascal, Spinoza, Kierkegaard, Leibniz, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Wittgenstein, Kant never formed an intimate tie or reared a family. As a young woman, I was so frustrated never to have seen a man naked that I used to wait until my husband snored before lifting the covers, lighting a match within the enveloping womb of the mosquito net, and examining his body under button cottons. The disappointment of discovering a worm in place of the monster. Of this, I was supposed to be afraid. This, the forge of fertility. Yet I couldn't rein in my curiosity. I looked every chance I had by the light of a match, not a candle, because when quickly extinguished, its smoke was not as incriminating. The steady snores, the deep breathing, the lost world of sleep, never once caught, never discovered. 15 years ago, at 61, my husband died a solitary passenger on a public bus, his head leaning at an awkward angle against the murky window. The bus drove 2 full routes, passengers ascending and alighting before the driver realized he was keeping the company with a lifeless man. Sometimes death arrives quietly. Wanting to put him to rest once more, I attended his burial, his final interment. No keening or wailing at his funeral. In the open casket, he lay dead. Someone had combed his hair flat and awkward, as if he'd just taken off his imbecilic hat. Seated all around me, the mourning women could not help but giggle and gossip. He had died with an erection that would not relent. Priapism in the final throes, an irony worthy of Svevo. In death, Eros triumphed, while in life, Thanatos had. My husband was a Freudian dyslexic.